Hi, everybody. Good evening, and welcome to another one in our 700th series of PETS training. I know it's felt like it's been very, very long, and I thank you for coming. I was so scared. I mean, I looked almost a couple of minutes before the time, and I saw like 15, and then all of a sudden, a plethora, everybody came, and so it's good to see all of you this evening. Welcome again to what we consider to be a very exciting time as we talk about how we could do some great things as Rotary clubs and Rotaract clubs, and looking at not just doing projects, but doing big, bold, audacious projects. And we'll talk a little bit about that this evening. Wanted to share something before I left. This coming Thursday, we do have another session, and we did talk about membership a little earlier with Past District Governor Felix Stubbs. And any number of the speakers would have talked about membership. And membership continues to be very important. As a matter of fact, I just came off of a Zoom membership call. And one of the questions was, what is the exciting things that 7,000, 703, and 702 are doing to get their membership to grow? Why is it that they're growing and others are not? And so there's something exciting happening here in the Caribbean that people want to know about. And we want to continue that by learning how to make our clubs even better. So we have an exciting speaker on this coming Thursday. Here's what I'd like to do. We've usually had no more than 400 persons on any of our sessions, and we've been able to expand our opening to allow for 1,000 members. So I'm gonna invite you presidents to go ahead and invite your board members to be a part of the session on this coming Thursday. Let's fill that 1,000 capacity, get your boards on board so that they can together hear some of the exciting things. And as you plan together, you'll have more persons who appreciate some of the wonderful things you can be doing. So we're extending an invitation to you to invite your board members to participate in the session coming up on this coming Thursday. So a lot of emails are going to be going fast and furious just to educate persons on how to sign in. But we look forward to seeing that and seeing as many of them on this coming Thursday. Enjoy the session, and it's great to see you again.
Thank you, Charles. Appreciate that. Yes, and don't miss Thursday. Mind you, don't miss tonight, because these are special events around the Rotary world. They're not getting what you're getting as two districts, which is great. It's now my pleasure to introduce to you a good friend, the General Secretary and CEO of Rotary International. John Hugo is a member of the Rotary Club of Kiev in the Ukraine, and yet he's based in Chicago. I haven't figured that out yet, but he manages to make that work. He maintains his membership very well. John was a Vice President for Operations and Compact Development for the Millennium Challenge Corporation from 2004 to 2009. And during that tenure, he completed the negotiation of assistance agreements totaling $6.3 billion to 18 countries for infrastructure, agriculture, water and sanitation, health, and education. Sounds like he was getting ready for Rotary, right? I mean, he's got the perfect background to fit right in and say, I'll continue what I'm doing and make this organization successful. Prior to that, John was an international partner with the law firm of Baker & McKenzie, specializing in international corporate transactions in emerging markets. And he helped to establish the firm's Moscow office and was managing partner of its offices in Kiev and Prague. What an amazing background. But listen to the education this man has. I don't know anybody who has this level of education. It humbles me to know what might be going on in his head at any one point in time. John holds a law degree from Harvard University and a master's degree in modern history from Oxford University. I don't know anybody who's graduated both Oxford and Harvard. Amazing. Also has a bachelor's in government and Soviet studies from Hamilton in New York. As General Secretary, John leads a diverse staff of 800 people at Rotary International's World Headquarters in Evanston. Although none of them at World Headquarters right now, they're all home and been home for a month or two, but he'll tell you about that as well. And he also is responsible for the 7 international offices we have. And of course, John is a Paul Harris Fellow, and he and his wife, Marga, live in Evanston. But I want to tell you, having the opportunity to spend some time at headquarters last year, and the job I happened to have last year, I was able to spend a lot of time with John and watch how headquarters functions. And let me tell you, every single staff member I came in contact with was outstanding, was there committed to helping us as volunteers get our job done and done well. And they were so polite about telling me what I need to do better that I, never really caught on, but they made sure I was doing as best I could. Fantastic staff. If you ever see any of the staff at headquarters, just say thank you, because they really help us all do a fantastic job. And in charge of all of them is our General Secretary, Chief Executive Officer for Rotary International. Please welcome, with a resounding Caribbean welcome, our CEO, John Hugo. John, over to you.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thanks so much. Very good evening. Bonsoir to everyone in District 7020 and 7030. Barry, thank you for that overly generous welcome. And let me first of all reciprocate by indicating what an outstanding Rotary International President Barry was. I think the region can be extraordinarily proud of him and his leadership and what he was able to achieve last year as Rotary International President. But again, it's great to be here, and particularly delighted because by having this PETS online, the way you've structured it, everything I've heard about it, the scale of it is really an example for the rest of the world in terms of how we need to operate in this new era of virtual living in the virtual space. So I congratulate you on this event as well, and also I'd like to congratulate the club president-elects who are on with us. I understand, as Barry mentioned, 27 countries, extraordinarily breadth of talent and passion and experience that are participating in this PETS. As Barry mentioned, what I thought I would do is perhaps provide you with a global sense, vision from a global perspective of where we are as an organization, where I think we're kind of headed, and then close with some sort of calls to action to the club president-elects who are on this training session. As Barry mentioned, my primary obligation is to oversee the Rotary Secretariat. We have about 750 employees in the Rotary Secretariat, about 550 in Evanston, and then another 200 in our 7 international offices around the world. And our job is to really support the activities of the 1.2 million Rotarians around the world. And so back in January of this year, it became very obvious to me that sort of looking at events in China and other places, that this pandemic was going to eventually sweep the globe. And so we put together a COVID response task force, and we took the months of January and February to get ready for what, at least to me, seemed pretty obvious that at some point we would have to move Rotary's international operations to a virtual platform and work at home status. So we took 2 months, we got ready. We did a practice run. I sent everybody home for 1 day around the world in the Secretariat, and we practiced what it would be like working outside of the office. And I'm glad we did, because we were able to find a number of kinks and glitches that we were able to get out of the system. And on March 12th, the entire Secretariat around the world went to work from home status. And I can tell you that we've been able to make that transition seamlessly. And today, as I speak, the Secretariat continues to support you, the Rotarians, at 100%. And so what I'd like to assure you is that operationally, as we speak today, Rotary International is on very, very sound footing. Now, I also get questions on these when I participate in these events in terms of where do we see our membership heading on a global level? Obviously, the world is passing through an extraordinary tragedy, through a pandemic, extreme economic hardship around the world. And so what's going to happen to our membership on a sort of global level? And we're fortunate to have on staff a PhD statistician. And so we asked him to sort of look at the last 115 years of data in Rotary and do sort of, I think I'm getting the right mathematical term, linear regression modeling. If there's a mathematician on and I have misspoken, please forgive me. To both try to figure out understand our past, what's happened historically during all the great pandemics and crises the world faced in Rotary's 115-year history, but also to sort of project out statistically where we might see membership heading. And what's interesting is if you look back over the last 115 years, there's only one time in our history where we saw a significant membership decline. And that was 2 years after the end of the Great Depression in the United States in late 20s and early 30s. And that was a 5%, a little over 5% membership decline. Since then, in all of the great crises we've faced, we've seen membership declines of well under 2%. In fact, the latest, the Great Recession, we saw declines of 0.4% and 0.5% during the height of that crisis in 08 and 09. And so for Rotary International, a 1% drop in membership represents an $800,000 loss in revenue, in dues lost. And so even if we were to face a 5% decrease, which only happened once in our history, that would represent a $4 million revenue loss to Rotary. And Rotary and Rotary senior leadership through the years has been very prudent in managing your money. And we have very strong reserves at Rotary International, as well as the Rotary Foundation. So even if we were to have a 5% drop in membership, which the forward-looking statistical analysis shows is highly unlikely, and again, the past is not a guarantee of the future, but at least based on this sophisticated modeling, we don't anticipate seeing a significant loss in membership, and we have adequate reserves to continue operating. So we're operationally very strong as I speak to you, and Rotary International and the Foundation are financially very, very strong. Now, a lot of questions on what has Rotary done to react in reaction to this COVID crisis globally. And the trustees of the Rotary Foundation, Barry was part of that process, allocated $3 million for these disaster response grants. Each district may apply for a grant of up to $25,000. We've received over 300 grant applications from districts already. We haven't had enough money to fill all those requests, but we have moved about $5 million in disaster response grants to date, and we've also received another, let's say, $12 million in global grant applications for COVID-related activities. So we as an organization, I think we can all be very proud of the fact that in the last 2 months, at least from an international level, we have moved or will move about $17 million for the COVID activities. And that doesn't even count all of the extraordinary work that's being done at the club and district level around the world, both in terms of fundraising, providing PPE, working in our local communities. So I think that's something that each and every one of us can be extraordinarily proud of. That is Rotary's reaction in the face of this terrible crisis. Questions come up on polio. What's going to happen to our polio eradication efforts given the crisis? And there again, we've unfortunately had to suspend the door-to-door vaccination campaigns because of social distancing. However, we are repurposing the polio infrastructure around the world to support the COVID activities. And here it's very important, as club president-elects, that you continue to work with your clubs to fundraise for polio eradication. The 2-to-1 match from the Gates Foundation is still active, and we need to continue to fundraise to make sure that we get to that, to be able to get that $100 million match from the Gates Foundation. But let me just close with a more kind of forward-looking message. And I suspect you've been hearing this quite a bit during your various sessions, knowing Barry and the organizers, that, you know, this is a terrible crisis that we're living through, no question about it. But in every crisis, often there is a silver lining. You know, they say necessity is the mother of invention and innovation. And I see, even though the world is passing through a terrible time, I see this as an incredible opportunity for Rotary to take even a further leap forward. We've been trying, and Barry knows this very well, for years to get our clubs and Rotarians to embrace technology, to begin thinking differently, to implement club flexibility. If the traditional way of doing things doesn't work, forget the rules. Let's fashion a club experience that's more attractive to the marketplace that we're trying to attract, particularly the younger demographic, where we've had trouble historically, globally, not everywhere, but globally, in attracting. So this is an incredible moment for us to seize this opportunity and really begin to innovate, to think out of the box, etc. So when Charles was talking about, hey, let's do the most bold, audacious project we can, that's exactly the kind of thinking we need at this time. How are we going to embrace technology? How are we going to operate now in this new environment? And how do we use this as an opportunity to attract to our organization a demographic that perhaps we've had trouble attracting in the past? You know, the younger professionals, they live, my daughter's 27, they live in this space. This is no big deal for them to move to online activities. So as grim as the situation may seem, if we're really clever and creative and use this as an opportunity to change, to adapt, to innovate, we may actually see an increase in membership. We may actually see that our organization prospers even more than we would have expected. So this is an incredibly good opportunity to change our culture where needed, when needed. Four-way test, our core values, our ethics, that can never change. But let's use this, let's seize the moment to really, this is, necessity is the mother of invention and innovation. Let's innovate, let's invent. And from everything I've heard in the brief, 15 minutes I was with you, you are well on the track to doing that. So let me leave you with 5 calls to action going forward. And I'm sure you're going to be hearing another 500 as you continue through your training, but let me just leave you with 5. And the first is that, to keep our organization strong and vibrant and relevant, we need to work on retaining our members. And I think Charles alluded to this as well in his comments. We have done some studies globally, and I'm giving you again a global perspective. It may or may not be relevant to your area, although I suspect some of it is. People tend to leave, the longer people stay in Rotary, the less likely it is that they will leave. And the real danger period, at least on a global basis, looking at the data, is between the 2nd and 3rd year of membership. So those folks, people that tend to leave our organization, are our newer members. And so as we think about preserving membership, engaging our members, retaining our membership, and keeping our organization strong, relevant, and thriving, particularly we need to focus on our newer members, because those are the most prone, statistically, to leave our organization. So that's my first call to action. Let's focus on member retention and member engagement, particularly on those who are newer to Rotary. Second, our projects. Our projects are, in many cases, people getting together, hands-on, doing things, making things happen. Well, we're all now quarantined. How are we going to do our project? How are we going to come up with these bold, audacious projects that Charles was talking about in an environment where we're all sitting at home? And so we need to put on our creative thinking caps, unleash the creativity of 1.2 million Rotarians, and figure out how we're going to continue to work into our projects in this new environment. Third call to action, fundraising, same issue. Many of our fundraising activities are the pancake days, the walkathons, the bike rides, the $1 million dinners. Well, those are much harder to do now that we're not meeting in person. So what is going to be how are we going to put on our creative thinking caps to come up with new ways to fundraise? I was just on a call with the Ukrainian district, my home district, and one of the clubs there raised a boatload of money doing a virtual beer fest. People were buying and selling virtual beers online. And I guess at the end of the day, somebody got a case of beer delivered to their house, but they raised a boatload of money. It worked in Ukraine. I wouldn't have never thought of a virtual beer fest, but they did, it worked. Knowing the creativity and energy in your region, I suspect there's a lot of cool ways you're gonna come up with some really cool ways of fundraising. So that's call to action number 3. We need to really put our thinking caps on with respect to fundraising. 4, anecdotally, we're hearing Rotarians are more connected than ever. Clubs are meeting virtually. Clubs that used to get 40% attendance are now getting 90%. All of us are able to participate in meetings around the world with the click of a button. I spoke last night to 1,700 Brazilians in a similar sort of event. So a lot of good news that we're hearing. However, I suspect there are clubs that are not meeting or not meeting as we would be ideal. And so if you're aware of clubs in your district, in your area, in your town, who are struggling with technology, who are not meeting, we need to really focus on those and help them. Because if a club goes 4 or 5 months without meeting, pretty much guaranteed that that club will not survive. And then finally, last message, the sky is not falling for Rotary. The world is passing through an extraordinarily difficult time, but that's not our case. In fact, I would say, and this is my closing thought to you, the world needs Rotary now more than ever. And we saw some of that through the videos in the pre-meeting that were shown. You know, in some ways, Rotary was built for this moment. Our organization, 1.2 million Rotarians, deep roots in almost every community in the world. In fact, I'd like to say there's not a politician in the world that doesn't have a Rotarian as a constituent. And so for those of you that are ice hockey fans, and I expect that in your region there may not be that many, but there is before the United States played the Soviets in 1980 in Lake Placid, the American coach in his pep talk in the locker room said, "This is our moment." And that's the same for Rotary. This is our moment. This is our historic moment. We were built for this moment. The world needs Rotary more than ever. And as president-elects, yes, you are entering into a difficult era in terms of the way we traditionally do things, but you're also at the cusp of being able to take our organization into an even brighter future. So again, thank you for having me, and best of luck with the remainder of your pets. And again, at the Secretariat, we look forward to supporting each and every one of you during your year as president of your respective clubs. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John. Really appreciate those tips and an update on where we are in Rotary. And remember, everybody, now here at 7020, you heard it first right here at our president-elect training. You heard that we need to be flexible, and if we have to forget the rules to do that, make it happen. We've got to make this organization strong and be creative in how we do it. Last week, John, you'd be interested to know, we asked for ideas. And let me tell you, I was trying to take notes, I couldn't keep track. They just kept flying in. So we copied our chat room and sent it out so everybody could share all these amazing creative ideas that we're going to have. I look forward to participating in many of those.
And also, Barry, if I could add, we at the Secretary would love to hear about those ideas. Anything that's really working, we're trying to collate those, curate them, and then get them back out to the Rotary world. And so thank you for that effort. And please let us know if there's some really golden nuggets that you come up with that might be helpful to the rest of us.
Well, today, John, you're our golden nugget. So you're here to help us with that. And you also told us this is our moment. I totally agree. This isn't a problem for us. This isn't a challenge. This is an opportunity. And we're all going to jump on it and make it work and make our organization better than we've ever been before. So we're going to pause for a video, and then we're going to come back and you're going to see some amazing speakers that you've been waiting for a long time. Well, now we're in for a treat. Now we have two of our past district governors from District 7020. I'm going to introduce them both so they can do this in tandem, and we're going to have fun doing this. Haresh Ramchandani from Jamaica, but if you go on Facebook, you could see him in any country in the world on another Rotary event. He's just everywhere I go. I don't know. Haresh, I don't know, one of us is stalking the other. A dedicated Rotarian to do whatever he has to do good things for Rotary, to help motivate. He's coming back next year as a trainer to train the trainers. That's the kind of guy he is. He is remarkable in training. And he's going to talk to us today about high impact projects, how we can do bigger, more audacious, as Charles talked about in the beginning. And that's what we've got to be thinking is, it's okay to do the small stuff, but let's be transformational. So Jeremy's, Haresh is going to walk us through that. And along with him is Pastors and Governor Jeremy Hurst. Now, these are two individuals who are entrepreneurs in their own right. They have extremely busy lives doing wonderful things for their country, for their business, for their families, and yet they find extraordinary time to dedicate to Rotary, to HANWASH, for Haiti, for other projects that we do. I see Haresh every single Tuesday morning at the district disaster meeting. I see Jeremy at the HANWASH meetings. I can't go on all the meetings he has. He's got 3 or 4 every single week because we're talking about a $2.6 billion program. He's got to spend a lot of time doing it, and he does. I am so proud to be a part of a district that has these two individuals. 7030, we want to share them with you because they truly are extraordinary. And with that, I'll open up the floor to Haresh Ramchandani and Jeremy Hurst. Please take it away.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. And it's really good to be here with you. I'm going to start first, and then I'm going to introduce Jeremy, and then he's going to talk a little bit more specifically about this wonderful, exciting HANWASH project and program, rather, that we're doing. So I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully everybody can hear me. And let me just share my screen with you. Thought I would just share some slides to kind of emphasize, of what we're doing here. So, excuse me, sorry. Technical difficulties. Here we go. Today, everybody's been enjoying Zoom. Today I was watching Hassan Minhaj, and he was saying that Skype, you had a 17-year head start, and you let Zoom just come and eat your lunch in 2 weeks. Unbelievable. So as you heard, we're going to talk about high impact projects, but I think it's important to just set the stage from now that high impact projects is a lot more than just a component of service, a lot more than that. You see, whenever we have conversations with millennials and Generation Z, we keep hearing about things that are really important to them. And what keeps coming to the forefront are having meaningful relationships and high impact service. These are ones that are always highlighted. And so I thought it's important I share this slide with you. This is from the Deloitte Millennial 2019 survey results. And if you look closely, you are seeing the 5 things that they put together that was really important to this generation. You see, they want to see and travel the world. They want to get a home. They want to build wealth. They want to start a family, have some children. And they want to make a positive impact on their community and society. This is important to them. And this is how they value doing good in the world. And it is on that basis, my friends, that Governor-elect Charles and Governor-elect Lyle wanted to highlight high impact projects this evening. And we're hoping by showcasing some inspiring ideas and projects that you too can leverage your club and yourself and your members and tap into the resources that are available to you. I'm going to start by highlighting perhaps one of the most well-known high-impact projects that you can think of, what is considered the largest public health partnership the world has ever seen, the Global Polio Eradication Initiative. But it's not just that I want you to think about. I want you to reflect for a moment. So just stop and think for a moment. Reflect on the leadership that it took to bring these entities together. Reflect on the vision to achieve this goal of a polio-free world. Just think about it. Someone just like you was sitting down there, probably in a meeting, and was having these thoughts of trying to achieve something bigger than themselves, bigger than their community, as big as the world itself. And a couple of days ago, I don't know if you heard, Barack Obama did the 2020 commencement speech to a lot of high schoolers. And if you heard him talk, you would have heard him say that now more than ever, we need good and strong leadership. And I've got to tell you, you are having this wonderful opportunity this year. You are the leaders this coming year. You have this enviable role to create, as Barry said, this audacious vision of a better world, a more compassionate world, and one that you can bring people around in your communities together and leave this world better than you found it. And my friends, tonight, highlighting high impact service, we're hoping that you can do just that, multiply that effect. But this is beyond just you, my friends. You see, each and every one of your club members has this potential. And one of your roles is to identify that strength in your club. One of my strengths I find is when I talk to entities and individuals, even non-Rotarian, I talk about opportunities that we have in our community and our clubs that we can do even more. Governor nominee Sonia and I were on a call today with the Price Foundation. And even though they're working with Rotary to do care packages in communities where they have these warehouse retail stores called Price Mart, the opportunity presented itself to just let them know that, hey, Rotary is a lot bigger than that, and we have high impact service out there. And would you like to partner with us on a future project? Something that maybe they as a foundation and an organization are passionate about. And so we've opened the door, we've left them simmering on the thought. And those are some of the things I want you to identify. It is not just what's happening in your club. Sure, you've got 27 countries, 160 plus clubs. You've got Governor-elect Lyle and Charles connecting with other districts in their zone. All of that you can leverage to create high impact. But it is all the other corporate entities around you, the corporate foundations around you, leveraging these partnerships, just like this example you're seeing here on the Global Polio Eradication Initiative, that you can truly have a huge impact. I'll give you an example closer to home, right here in Jamaica. This was a project of doing a cath lab, right? And they look at all the various organizations that came together, Rotary Foundation being one of them. But we leveraged the resources of the Digicel Foundation, of the Shaggy Foundation, of Chain of Hope and Gift of Life. You know, we brought everybody's skill set together for a united cause. It was a $1.2 million grant. The Rotary Foundation component was 100,000, but look at the impact it had, providing heart surgeries to children who couldn't get it. Over and over, the impact, sustainable, measurable, long-lasting. And that's what I want you to think about. It's not just about your club and your district and getting a grant from the Rotary Foundation. Impact could be so much more. Let me go south, take you to Brazil. Give you an example of what $172,000 could do. You see, this was really about equipping the neonatal intensive care unit in Brazil. They were focusing on saving mothers and children. They got a club in Brazil to speak to a club in Japan. And the background was that there was high mortality rates in the area that the club was in. I think it was about south of Sao Paulo or so. And then I worked with the local hospital over there and spoke to them about what is the best approach to solve this problem. And they said, well, we're going to need equipment. We need ICU units, and we need to provide prenatal care and breastfeeding workshops for the pregnant adolescents. And what was the outcome? Infant mortality rates were cut in half. I mean, I just think about that for a second. These are people we will never meet, never see. They'll never hear about us. They will probably never even know about the organization that did it. They're going to be growing up into this beautiful world that we've left them. But knowing that we were able to make a difference for generations to come, so heartwarming. Take you further north to Guatemala, probably a project I think everybody's quite famous of hearing about, the Guatemala Literacy Project. I love this project, just the infrastructure that this project has done. They do several projects a year, several global grants. This particular one was nearly 340,000 US. They worked with a club in Colorado, and they focus on supporting education for the children in Guatemala. What I love about it is this is going 20 years now. They have worked with over 500 Rotary clubs, I believe. It's just absolutely amazing. This particular one, which had an impact of $340,000, was able to impact over 6,000 kids. Now just think about it, 6,000 kids gonna grow up educated. They're gonna have families, they're gonna have children, they're gonna have jobs, they're gonna do things in their community. We can't measure that. You know, many times we talk about how are we measuring our impact. It's so difficult to measure this, but I can tell you something. What it's gonna do to Guatemala is gonna be life-changing. Now, a couple of days ago, past president and chair-elect of the Rotary Foundation, Ravi Ravindran, spoke to you all. I'm hoping many of you heard his talk. It was absolutely amazing. And he spoke about all these wonderful projects that Sri Lanka has been doing. But I wanted to highlight this particular one. And there's a reason I wanted to highlight this one. Because it ticks a lot of boxes. It had a significant impact in the country. It worked with a lot of different partners that were able to come together. And in this particular one, they decided, the club, they wanted to end cervical cancer in Sri Lanka. And so what did they do? They had a relationship with the Rotary Club in Birmingham, Alabama. They told them, look, we want to set up a cancer detection center. And Birmingham, Alabama said, hey, well, we have connections with the University of Alabama in Birmingham. Let's have a conversation with them. You know, let's do this global grant to fund HPV testing machines. And then they spoke to this leading telecom company in Sri Lanka. And they said, well, listen, can you help us construct the facility? And then they turned to the Sri Lankan government and say, hey, we're doing all of this. Can you take care of the cost of the vaccines? And what happens in the end? They had 83% of the girls 10 years old vaccinated. Multiple partners, national and international level of impact, preventing disease, massive scale. Unbelievable. Just what the idea of a club saying, you know what, this is the need, and it's not whether we can do it, it is how are we going to do it. That vision that I spoke about, that leadership component that I spoke about, the seats that you are in this year, what I'm talking about. And I also want to highlight to you something I'm really excited about, because you see, when you talk about high impact projects, it's not just about high dollar amounts. Sure, it can be. But it can also be low dollar amount creating a high impact. And for that, I want to take you to Paraguay. So here's this club in Paraguay that had a need, and they spoke to the club in Germany, and they said, well, let's do a global grant, $50,000, I guess high to some people, but low in the scheme of things compared to other grants out there. And they realized that the farmers were having a lot of challenges, the indigenous farmers in the South, and they decided to target this impact of growing a local economy. And what they did, they got training done for the residents in these farming villages and tried to get them out of this subsistence farming and move them up. So they got them equipment, tractors, plows, harrows, etc., and got them this global grant so that they can now start planting for generations again, not just now. So you can't even measure that kind of impact. Right? 500 acres you're planting for them to make it a lot easier. What is the dollar value of that impact going to be? It's hard to measure, but it is high impact. And now I want to also talk about quickly this very, very exciting grant that the Rotary Foundation is rolling out this year, what we call programs of scale grants. $2 million. Can you imagine? $2 million grant, measurable, sustainable solutions they're going to create to try and impact a large geographical area. So they're gonna give this grant out, and I'm hoping one of your clubs are going to come together and steer that vision to make it happen. 3 to 5 years, that's what they're looking at. They don't need an international partner, but they're expecting you to work with other organizations, other NGOs, other government entities, private foundations, like what I mentioned to you. And the idea behind this is that they want these organizations to also have skin in the game. They want Rotary to lead it though. And the benefit of this is that by doing something like this, you can see whether it can be scaled, you can see whether it can be replicated in other communities. You see, another issue that Rotary is having, you've got a lot of organizations that come to them and say, okay, we know you're doing polio. Well, what else are you doing? what are the other opportunities that you are able to offer us? So by rolling this out, they're going to be able to identify some really, really high impact projects. I believe proposals were due March 1. I'm not sure if that date was moved, but what I heard was that they were going to shortlist some of those proposals, and by June they're going to ask them to submit applications for the ones that they shortlisted, and then by the October board meeting through a committee they're going to identify which one is going to get it. So it's exciting to see how that's going to roll out. Even if as a district and as clubs in our districts we don't do this right now, that's okay, but we can start the process, we can start the vision, we can start the thinking, we can say what is the need in our area that we can do on a scale of that magnitude. So that I think is going to be a game changer for our organization. And another game changer for our organization is HANWASH, because it ticks the box of potentially programs of scale. It ticks the box for high impact. And I know many of you have heard some details about it, but for that, I'm going to hand over to PDG Jeremy Hurst to talk a little bit about more on the HANWASH high impact project. Jeremy, and then after that, we'll take questions.
Thank you so much, PD Hiresh. I'm assuming everyone can hear me. Just wave if you can. I'd hate to be speaking to myself. Okay. Okay, good. There's a delay there. That's great. So Barry, General Secretary John, District Governors-elect Charles and Lyle, and your respected district leadership teams. Good evening to you all, but in particular, the most important guest tonight, District 7020s and 30s, high impact future leaders. That's exactly what you are. The potential for this is in your hands. And for those who don't know me, great to see you, great to meet you for the first time. And those that you do, you may not recognize me, you're probably admiring my COVID Barry Ration aspirational beard here. Don't adjust your screens, it's not anything to do with low bandwidth. So, but I'm very happy to look very similar to Barry. I'm sitting next to him right here. So let me just move forward now and try and share my screen with you. And if you just give me a second, I'll go through the same process that Haresh did. I'm going to share it first, then go to the slideshow. Okay. Okay. So there we go. All right, so hopefully you can see that on the screen. It should say HANWASH. Does everyone see that? Just give me an indication if you do. Okay, excellent, great. So I'm here tonight to start with the story and talk to you about HANWASH. And you know, of course, that incoming President Holger's theme is Rotary opens doors, as represented by the 3 doors right here. Well, of course, I don't think he was necessarily referring to barn doors, but let me explain the connection of this photograph and the story behind it. There once was a farmer who grew award-winning corn. In our region, that might be sugarcane or maybe yams. I'm not a farmer, I don't know. But each year he entered his corn into the state fair where he won the blue ribbon. He was from the United States, obviously. One year, a newspaper reporter interviewed him and learned something interesting about the way he grew his corn. And the reporter discovered that the farmer shared his seed corn with his neighbors. The reporter asked the farmer, how can you afford to share your best seed corn with your neighbors when they're entering corn in a competition with yours every year? Why, sir, said the farmer, don't you know? The wind picks up the pollen from the ripening corn and swells it from field to field. If my neighbors grow inferior corn, cross-pollination occurs and steadily degrades the quality of my corn. If I'm to grow good corn, I must help my neighbors grow good corn. My fellow District 7020 and District 7030 future leaders, I'm not sure if the same does apply to yam or cassava or sugarcane, but even so, the moral of the story applies here. Those of us who have the ability and the luck to live well must help our neighbors live well. For the value of our life is measured by the lives we touch, and this has never been truer in our multi-island district, where looking after our neighbor, those in other islands, is very much part of our culture, and where by standing together, we stand stronger. I had the honor of being District 7020's DG during 2013 Rotary year. My experiences visiting Haiti at that time forever affected my life and opened a series of amazing opportunity to become involved with what has widely been recognized as one of Rotary International's highest impact and most audacious, ambitious, using Barry's words, programs. perhaps one of the most audacious, ambitious, if we're successful, in Rotary's 115-year history. The program, HANWASH. And there's 2 points I'd like to make about it to start with. Firstly, this is a Caribbean-originated project. It's District 7020s and District 7030s. It's initiated by us, and it is high impact by any standards. So let me introduce you to what HANWASH is all about. And to those of you who haven't heard much about the program, I'd like to give you an update. HANWASH is a multi-decade program, and as Barry says, there's an estimated cost of around $2.3 billion. And yes, that's billion with a B. It's audacious, and it has the goal of providing clean, potable water and satisfactory sanitation and hygiene to the entire nation of Haiti. I regret, however, having to start my presentation by citing statistics, but to understand the situation that Haitians face every day, it's necessary. Just as, unfortunately, these statistics that I'm quoting are probably the same as they were 10, 20, or maybe even 50 years ago. Things, unfortunately, have not improved. So in Haiti, only 30% of the people have access to potable water. And this is the key statistic, within a 30-minute walk of their residence. In the rural villages where most Haitians reside, only 24% have access to a toilet. In fact, 2 million of the 11 million population regularly practice open-air defecation. They have no choice. As a result, waterborne illnesses such as typhoid, cholera, and dehydration through chronic diarrhea account for 50% of the deaths in the country. In fact, half of Haiti's water and sanitation infrastructure is simply not functioning. The country is, and has been for some time, an out-of-control recipient of aid funding, most of which sadly only focuses on creating relief by temporary fixes to problems that exist, rather than building the systems necessary for the country to function properly and fully develop. The end result of this is charity mentality. And a survey of over 3,500 water fountains and kiosks in 2004 showed that only about half actually work. Additionally, 40% of the wells remain non-functioning and contaminated today. Charity, as we know it in Haiti, has drastically failed. It's time for a sustainable solution for Haiti that can resolve their water and sanitation dilemma once and for all, and serve as a blueprint and model for other developing countries and regions. In January 2018, along with many people that you know here, many of those friends of HANWASH, and I won't name them, there's just too many right now, HANWASH was established. It serves as an umbrella to bring together 4 distinct groups within the Haitian WASH Center, WASH being water, sanitation, and hygiene. First are the water and sanitation implementers in Haiti. These are non-governmental organizations, NGOs, who specialize in providing water and sanitation solutions. They dig wells, they create city water systems, and build micro-flush toilets, for example. One of our most significant partners in this sector is Haiti Outreach, and you heard the voice of Neil Van Dyne, its country director, talk about water and sanitation in Haiti and the success they've had there at the start of this session. They're our key partner. Others include Pure Water for the World, Food for the Poor, and Hope for Haiti, for example. Second are the major donor agencies from around the world who are committed to funding Haiti's water programs. These include organizations like USAID, UNICEF, World Vision, and of course the World Bank, but also include national governments and large multinational corporations. The third is DINEPA, Haitian government agency that regulates water and sanitation within the country. DINEPA is intended to operate outside the politics of the government, the federal government. It tries its hardest to do so. It's not easy in Haiti. It's made up of extremely dedicated professionals, many of whom have master's degrees in water management from US and Canadian universities, who are passionate and dedicated to bring successful WASH solutions to the country. And finally, there is us. Rotary International, working through our district, District 7020, and our neighbors 7030 and others around the world. In cooperation with staff and experts from the Rotary Foundation, members of John's team from Rotary International, organizations like part of Rotary like WASRAG, Rotary's Water and Sanitation and Hygiene Action Group, as well as 5 champion districts currently from around the world. We're hoping to grow that to many more. HANWASH is the organization that brings all of these global, regional, or local players together to do what so many believed would be impossible to do, to bring potable water, sanitation, and hygiene to the entire nation of Haiti. But why us? Why Rotary? How can we succeed? And why can we succeed where so many others have failed in the past? Let me explain. It begins with a systematic, technologically driven approach to gathering current data through community assessments. In the process, creating local, socially driven solutions that result in a community action plan for every community. Let me break it down. First, let's talk about collecting data. Our on-the-ground operatives, that sounds like secret agents, but they're not, Rotaractors, Rotarians, or HANWASH ambassadors, which can, by the way, be from Rotary or from partner NGOs. They use an app on their cell phones, simple app on their cell phones, called mWater. mWater. And these volunteers walk through a community and map its water sources. They approach a water pump or a kiosk, simply take a picture of it with the app on their cell phone, and through satellite imagery, record its exact coordinates. They then try the pump and code it, either as functional or broken. Then they take out a test kit, a simple test kit, and can instantly determine if the water is safe or is E. coli poisoned. Then instantly, upload all this data to the mWater platform. We know the status then of all the water sources in a given community. And Neil was referring to this earlier when he referenced his mapping. We then use Google Maps to show the location of each and every dwelling in that same community and overlay the map with our water source data, knowing that each dwelling holds about 5.5 people and that access to water is defined as being houses which are under 500 meters from the source. We now have accurate data on the level of access to clean water for every household in that community. My fellow Rotarians, as Neil said, we are doing this for the whole of the country of Haiti. We've done 40% so far, and we will do the rest in the near future. No one has ever tried to do this on as wide a scale, a community assessment before. And in doing so, we're establishing a baseline by which we can measure the water needs for the country as a whole. The next step in creating socially driven solutions, and there are 144 communes in Haiti to do this, we meet with each of the commune's leaders. And in this photograph taken earlier this year, you'll recognize a key member of the HANWASH team. Barry will recognize him very well, of course, because it's his past aide, none other than past RA Director John Smarge from the Rotary Club of Naples in Florida. Also with him is Fritz Pierre-Louise from the Liagan Rotary Club. Fritz, I think you're on the call tonight as well. Great to see you earlier. Both are members of our HANWASH steering committee, and there are many, many more. Here they're meeting with the mayor of Cavaillon, our first pilot commune's mayor. Our team took with these leaders, showed them our collected data and asked them, how can we help you provide clean water to your citizens? We're really not driving this, they are. The key is that they are. And to be successful, we need to understand that it has to be the local community that moves this initiative forward. We'll provide the engineering study, the funding for it, the initial funding, the seed money, build the infrastructural framework to start with, but they need to take it from there. In each commune, we assign a HANWASH ambassador, either a member of one of our 22 Rotary clubs in Haiti, and I'm sure some of those are on the call right now, or as I said, one of our trusted local NGO partners. They're there on the ground, part of the community, and they can guide the process much better from the ground. And collectively, with the government, with the mayors, with the Kazakhs, they build this community action plan. Finally, we ensure that the process embodies the core values of HANWASH. These include sustainability, transparency, and accountability. You'll recognize those from the Rotary Foundation's core values as well. And most importantly, through a thoughtfully managed pay-for-service system. And I'll say that again, a pay-for-service system. That's correct. We are not providing free water here. To do so would be a major mistake and fall into that toxic charity trap. We're requiring that the citizens of Haiti pay for the water they receive. This may be surprising to you, but actually this is a monumental step. It's never happened before in many, many regions of Haiti. But we recognize, as do our partners, that for our program to be sustainable, we need both social, but not only social, but also financial buy-in from the communities and its residents. We then establish a professional operator. In Cavaillon, it's the local bank. They collect the fees, they pass a small percentage to DINIPA, the regulatory body, so they can effectively carry out their role, and they hold the rest for future water system upgrades and repairs, therein building sustainability to the whole process. This is actually the easy part. The hard part comes with changing the culture. Changing the culture of the people to embrace the idea for pay for service and move away from charity. Changing the culture of DINIPA and the local government, that it's their responsibility to serve and care for their citizens and not rely upon outside NGOs only. And the hardest group to change are the NGOs themselves, unfortunately, and many other charity-based organizations, yes? And that includes well-meaning international service clubs, including some of our international partner clubs. We've seen that in the past, who unwittingly proliferate this damaging culture, what, as we said, is referred to as toxic charity. Before the 2010 earthquake, there were 4,000 NGOs in Haiti. After the earthquake, there were 22,000, each trying to carve a little piece out of the Haiti pie. Many of them are well-meaning, but unfortunately, very few of them considering what is best for the long-term development of this beautiful country as a whole. I both love and hate this photo. It was taken during our last visit to Haiti in January. It's next to a school in Le Caille, where DG Robert and the Rotary Club of Le Caille did an excellent project providing school desks and benches for the students. So he went there so he could receive a plaque from the principal of the school and the students. It was a lovely ceremony. When we were there, we looked across and we noticed this pump, and it was installed less than 30 years ago by a well-intentioned NGO, and now it doesn't work. It's on a concrete pad, and there sits a lawnmower. Doesn't work either. But more worryingly, if you look in the background, you see a blue and white building. That's a water kiosk that used to be connected to the water system for the city, and that doesn't work either. Rather than spend the funds to fit the existing system, this NGO or church, maybe even an international service club, simply spent another $20,000 to drill a well and install a new pump. This happens every week in each and every village in Haiti, or something like this. We need to bring these organizations together, and we can. We need to think about sustainability and national initiative, and we need to move past the idea of simply offering relief and embrace the concept of providing development. Haiti needs HANWASH, a sustainable, resilient, scalable, high-impact program, not a sequence of quick fix projects. So, how can you help? Well, firstly, we're writing our second Rotary Foundation Global Grant for our pilot in Cavaillon. The grant is for $348,000. Simply, of course, we need funds. And if you're clubs and if you can individually support this, we'd love you to. And we thank you for doing so. Secondly, we estimate that it will take about $2 million to complete our work in Cavaillon and in each of the other 145 communes at least. So only 10 to 20% of that, interestingly enough, will be accomplished through Rotary Foundation grants. Rotary Foundation simply could not afford to fund this program as a whole. The remaining will be funded through partnering with other large donor agencies, and in most cases, they require we match their funds. So we're collecting our side of those matches through contributions to our HANWASH Donor Advised Fund. Barry is the director of this. We also have a District 7020 fund held with our fund accounts in the Cayman Islands, of which, by the way, I'm treasurer. No conflict, fully disclosed. We use this as seed money to support the operational side of HANWASH, which is essential if we're to build the structure to allow us to scale and grow the HANWASH program. And I can provide details if you need them of both of these. Thirdly, your club, or maybe a group of clubs, may wish to sponsor the drilling of a well, an installation of a pump, but not like the one we saw before, because as part of HANWASH's cost of that well, $20,000, it also includes the opportunity and the ability to manage the pay-for-service program that comes with it in the community. And it also includes funds for its sustainability and ongoing management. And lastly, although I won't deny we do want your money, there's something just as valuable that we want, and that's your support and your advocacy. Our clubs and their HANWASH ambassadors in Haiti are already doing an excellent job in this regard. Within your sphere of influence, you may know people who can help HANWASH. It might be through a church group or a local NGO who's currently operating in Haiti. Introduce them to us. We don't want to compete with them, we want to work alongside them. We can utilize their skills and we together can serve Haiti better. You might know an engineer or water expert, for example, or someone who wishes to become a major donor, and we can work with them there as well. Let us speak with them. Let me offer you some final thoughts. And this photo was taken again recently when we were in Haiti, in Cavaillon. You saw the photo of our January meeting with the mayor and community leaders in Cavaillon, their first pilot commune there. In that meeting, the mayor proudly announced that after the first month of billing that went out, a third of the residents actually paid their bills. That may sound little, but that was a major achievement to him, as he'd never received a water bill before. Now, after the third month of operation, through encouragement of our people on the ground, of Robert's Rotary Club of Les Cayes, that percentage has increased to 60%, which is unheard of. When we asked the ORAPA director on the ground there how long it would take to get to 60%, he thought between 2 to 4 years. We did it in 6 months. We're now on our way to cultural change there in this commune, but we need to continue. Additionally, whilst our team was in Haiti in January, we met with one of the largest donor agencies. One memorable meeting was with the World Bank. In our first meeting, it was very clear that the Director General really didn't know much about Rotary, who we were and what we did. He asked, how long will you be here with your project? You see, he's accustomed to witnessing any one of the 22,000 NGOs that come in there regularly with freshly raised contributions, completing a small project over a couple of years, like the broken pump in Les Cayes, and leaving thereafter quite shortly. We explained that we are Rotary, and HANWASH is in fact not a project. It's a high impact, sustainable long-term program. And we'll be done when we're done. When every Haitian man, woman, and child has access to clean, potable water. That's when we'll be done. In fact, if we go to those comments earlier, we have a proven track record in this regard. We have a track record which we need to rise up to and make sure that we keep intact. Think back 35 years when a group of Rotarians in the Philippines had the audacious goal of eliminating polio in their country. Here we are, still at it, and we will remain at it until the last case when the world is polio free. The same applies to HANWASH. We will be there till every last Haitian has clean, potable water. There's a footnote to this story. When we left the meeting with the World Bank, 2 days later, actually the day we were about to fly off, we got asked to go back for a rushed meeting just before we departed from the airport. In that 2 days, the Director General had thought about what HANWASH was about and what Rotary can do. And he saw the potential for us to work with him as a partner. There and then, in front of DINAPA, with their support and encouragement, he offered us a grant of $2.5 million to work with them in Terra Neuve, a commune that hadn't managed to find a solution in for 5 years. The grant was about to expire. Now, of course, $2.5 million is a lot of money. When you say it against $2.3 billion, it doesn't seem so much. But what was significant was not the amount, but it was that he got it. He understood who we are, what we're about. Integrity, transparency, sustainability, and impact. Rotarians and HANWASH are there for the long term. This is an audacious goal, District 7020 and District 7030 leaders, but I mean no one could take this on but you and Rotary, and we will prevail. High impact leaders. I'm proud that this is a Caribbean region District 7020 initiated program. As the story I started with said, we choose to live well, and in doing so, we know we must help our immediate neighbors throughout our amazing district to do so as well. Not every one of your projects start or should become a high impact program to the scale of HANWASH. It shouldn't be. However, every one of your projects can aim to be high impact. There are lessons we can learn and apply from HANWASH here for you in your clubs. The importance of sustainability and resilience is absolutely key. The benefits of a long-term community development as opposed to short-term fixes is another lesson we can learn. The opportunity to scale by effectively leveraging partnerships around us, and Haresh touched on programs and projects that did this previously. And most importantly, the strength and reputation and credibility that Rotary brings to the table. That is something we should all be proud of and we should all utilize. So I want to thank each and every one of you here, those of you who know HANWASH and have been passionately involved in it, for your involvement to date. And as I said, I won't name you, but you know who you are. Without it, the program would not have left the starting gate. Now it has, we've got a long way to go, but with you and your club's help, HANWASH will get there. It will deliver clean, safe water and sanitation to all the people of Haiti. Thank you so much for this opportunity to present to you. I greatly appreciate it. And on behalf of the HANWASH Steering Committee and the people of Haiti, our hearts go out to you. Thank you.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much, Haresh. And to Jeremy, I really appreciate your helping us with understanding the audacity of what we're doing, but also to appreciate that we can do bigger things than we've ever dreamt we could do in the past. So thank you so much for your time. We do have a few questions for you, which I'm going to hone in on right now. Cindy Ann asked, do we have any way to measure the social return on investment by measuring our projects of impact? Haresh, Jeremy?
Yeah, so that's always been a question that the conversations have taken place. I know Rotary International started a way of measuring by looking at sweat equity and looking at not just dollar amount, but I think we're not at that stage yet where we can look at social, but the conversations are taking place. And we're hoping that we're going to get to the stage where all of these different avenues can be taken into account, including social measurements.
So important.
I mean, we have a measurement committee with HANWASH. That's an absolutely key component. It's interesting. Social measurement is the hardest thing to measure. Education is a large part of what we do. Neil Van Dyne, who's one of my, the person like my greatest in this, says that you know it's right when you feel it's right. And it's very difficult to measure socially, but you just know you got it right. And you see it in other ways. You see it spiral into other areas of the community. And yeah, you can measure education, you can measure other benefits that come out of it. but it's very difficult to measure social aspects of things.
Nadia asked, how do you, and a very practical question here, how do you make the connection with other like-minded clubs with the capacity to support your project? So it's connecting club to club, so you're thinking alike, you both want to work together. How do you find those clubs?
So there are a number of ways that I try to do that. Social media is huge. You know, you just post the idea on social of what you're thinking about doing, what your club is looking at, and you'll be amazed at how many people start to get involved in that conversation. If you're visiting a lot of Rotary clubs, like I am right now, you just have these conversations in the chat box, and you start to see what people are saying, and that will tell you whether or not that club feels that way. But it is beyond clubs, as I was saying. Sometimes you're having a conversation with an individual or an entity, and you just plant that seed, plant that idea, and all of a sudden you will realize that this particular organization or club is interested in education. So you know right away, maybe a disease prevention project might not work for them. But you keep that on your list. You create a little list. And if you've got something coming up which would involve something with education, you know you can reach out to them because they are a potential partner for that. So it takes a little bit of work. Nothing rewarding is easy, but I think it would be very well worth it in the long run.
And of course, you can always go to Rotary Ideas on Rotary.org and find information and clubs that want to work with you. Jeremy?
Yeah, and go to Rotarian action groups. I mean, the action groups themselves focus in on a particular area of specialization, and they can put you in contact with clubs as well and give you expertise and advice. So they're an amazing resource.
The next two questions from Kim and Annette are about the programs of scale grants. I'm going to help you because we just had a meeting on this last week. Were clubs previously advised about the programs of scale grants, saying that proposals were due? And will the programs of scale grants be available yearly? Well, I can tell you, we actually looked as trustees, do we continue the program next year? Or are we going to put everything we have into COVID-19? And fortunately, the trustees said, yes, we will have one program of scale for $2 million, but it's going to have to be a damn good project, okay? And this has got to be something exceptional, transformational, that we're going to say, we have to support that. So yeah, we're going to do one, but we're going to be monitoring it as trustees going forward. So we're planning to do it every year, but it'll depend on how good the first one is and how well it works. And keep in mind, program scale project is to be going over for 2 to 3 years. This isn't something we expect done in 1 year. So that is continuing. A couple of questions on wells. How does sponsoring a well work, and how much does it cost to sponsor a well?
The total cost of sponsorship of a well is in a region of $20,000. But I want to be absolutely clear that that's just not the physical aspect of drilling the well. That includes the preparation of the community around that well. And even though we're asking you to sponsor a well, it's very unlikely that one well would be dug in isolation. We're looking at programs that would deal with 5 to 20 wells at a time in a community. So the structure that is formed around that would be a structure that's formed around that quantity of wells as needed by that community. So what we're looking for is multiple clubs or multiple groups of clubs to sponsor multiple wells, but $20,000 is the figure. And we'll have some way of identifying that this is your well or your group of clubs or your group of members well, and acknowledging you in that process. We are fleshing that process out right now, but that hopefully answers your question. But the key to this is not just drilling those wells like we saw before that died after 3 to 5 years. We're dealing with wells that are going to be there as part of HANWASH program that will be there in perpetuity, well maintained, well serviced, and sustainable.
Thank you. And Jeremy, you might want to take notes. This is a long question coming up. This is from Aniska. Is there a strategic plan in place for the HANWASH project, such as time frame, which area will be targeted first, and for how long is given to each affected area to have access to water? Do we take into consideration the affordability of the citizens when the system is installed? And are we planning to get involved other service organizations such as Kiwanis, Toastmasters, Optimist, etc.?
Okay, so the short answer to that is yes. So but I will go into more detail. So,
Thank you.
great question, by the way. And you must have been listening on our steering committee meetings over the past 6 months to a year. So I think that what we did was we didn't dive into creating a strategic plan from day one, quite simply because we didn't think we knew the questions we needed to ask first. So what we did was we held off with and used our first 4 pilot communes, our first pilot communes, to learn what questions we need to ask to create an effective strategic plan. Coming out of our last trip to Haiti in January, with the assistance of an amazing lady called Erica Gwynn, who is in fact Rotary International's water and sanitation expert. She's the manager globally for water and sanitation, and also the USAID partner manager for the relationship between Rotary and USAID. We used her as a facilitator to help us create our strategic plan. And Barry knows, because he's been part of this process and he's seen it in various points. We have been working since January in the creation of a strategic plan. Now, interestingly enough, we mentioned programs of scale. We did think about the idea of maybe going for a program of scale, but after consultation with Erica, we felt that it was too early for us. So, watch this space next year, because with her and with the team that we have, including people like Barry, the chairman of WASRAG, Ron Denham, Neil Van Dyne, you heard earlier, we are creating a phenomenal strategic plan. DG Dalma sits on that committee. It ticks all the boxes you're talking about. It leverages partnerships. It is absolutely designed for HANWASH to be an umbrella. Even though it starts with Rotary, in 5 years' time, all we want is Rotary to be part of that and its values to be part of that. We want it to embrace as equal partners, NGOs, and other clubs, service clubs. In fact, we had a great conversation with the head of Lions in Haiti when we were there in January. And we're investigating the possibility of bringing Lions into this program, just to give you an example. So I could go into depth, but very shortly, we think it's probably around about 2 meetings away, which means about 2 weeks away, we'll have a finalized strategic plan. Our job is then to turn that into an inward-facing and outward-facing business plan with distinct timelines for each of the components of that strategic plan. I've done a lot of strategic planning over the years with my companies and other entities. I have never seen a strategic plan thought through like this. I could go on for hours on this, and I know we don't have time, but it was a great question, and we'll make sure that you get one of the first copies of it. Is it Aniska?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Aniska, you'll get one of the first copies.
Haresh, you had a comment.
Yeah, I just want to add to the conversation. When we talk about high impact projects, and in particular this one in Haiti, there are other benefits that we don't think about on initial thoughts. And in this case, when we're providing clean water to the citizens of Haiti, the benefits we're not thinking about are these. You're taking a woman who would have walked for miles to go and get water. You're taking her away from danger, who could potentially have been raped. You're taking a child away who now has that opportunity to go to school or get educated. So there is a lot of benefits we don't think about when you say, we're providing clean water to a community. It goes far beyond that. And it's, again, so hard to measure what that benefit is gonna be on that child, on that woman, on that family, on that community. I mean, I just get goosebumps thinking of the lives that we change and the communities that we change, and we don't even realize it. But just saying, let's do this, let's get this vision and let's make this happen, let's solve this problem. So we have this opportunity this year to really, really step up with our vision, our goals, collaborate together, and change and transform our communities. And I'm excited to see what you all, as the leaders of your communities and your clubs, are going to do.
Thank you. A quick answer to this one: is there a specific time frame to complete the HANWASH project?
The original time frame we looked at before we got to know better was 2030, in line with the Sustainable Development Goals for the United Nations. seriously, we think that's more likely to be realistically 2040 now. It may be one of those projects that is not completed in our lifetime, some of our lifetimes. Some of us are older than you, so you're young and you've got to carry it on. But right now, we think realistically, and Barry, I'm not referring to you, of course, but Barry,
Yeah,
realistically, realistically, it's we're rolling out a 5-year strategic plan, and we're looking to get 20% coverage done in 5 years. So that's in terms of the answer to I can let you know that from the strategic plan. That's where we're aiming to get to. And if we can get 20% coverage in 5 years, we think the rest of it can happen because we'll have the momentum, the structures, and systems in place. It won't be 2030, in my opinion, but it could be 2035.
Okay, a couple more and then we'll call it a night. Again, from Aneska, is it possible that we also kill 2 birds with 1 stone with HANWASH? That is, if a system is put in place to get them access to water, it can be jobs are created around the system so that the citizens can benefit economically.
Yeah, absolutely. It goes to the comments that Haresh was making earlier on. When the reason that you want to start with water, we're not talking about just solving the water issue here. We're talking about the whole economic development of a country. That's essentially what we're talking about. And of course, jobs come directly from the water system, but jobs also come from the ability for people to be healthy. So they can go to work and work a full day and work a full week without having chronic diarrhea or E. coli poisoning. So the benefits are so difficult to measure, but once it's strange that water is the analogy. You talk in the Caribbean about a rising tide, a water tide floating all boats. That's exactly what's going to happen with water in Haiti. Once we rise the quality of water in Haiti, once we give that water solution to Haiti, all aspects of the economy are going to rise with it. All aspects of people's lives will improve. Education, health, hygiene, general standard of living. So it's a great question, and there will be direct effects in terms of work created around it, but there will also be so many more indirect effects that are tied to it.
Like I said, we're going to try to wrap up shortly. There's so many in the chat just saying thank you, fantastic presentations. Both of you did a great job. They want a copy, and I assure everybody it'll be on both websites, 702, 7030, so you can access and take it to your clubs. Make sure all our Rotarians know what we're doing with high impact and with HANWASH. One more. For the HANWASH project, I think what Marlo is asking is how are you working with the local clubs on the ground in Haiti to accomplish this project?
Okay. The local clubs are literally in phase 1, the most important component on the ground. And what we're going to be doing, and what we have already done, is appoint a HANWASH ambassador in each one of those clubs. And they will become the conduit for HANWASH's message through the clubs into the community. I see PDG Robert has been on the call, and his club in Cavaillon, we literally could not have had the success we've had in Cavaillon without PDG Robert and his club. They've been a tremendous HANWASH ambassador. They're a model for the rest of the country in that sense. What we are going to do is take that a stage further. We're not just going to appoint an ambassador going forward. We're also going to certify the club as HANWASH certified. So it's not just an individual that's going to be focused on HANWASH. The club itself is going to have HANWASH embedded into its DNA, and they are going to be the focal point for our first spread. We talked about 20% of the country. We think with our 22 Rotary clubs there, that's the first step to get to that 20% of the country in 5 years.
Great. There's a question here. How do you determine which area to focus on? If you're talking about areas of focus, clearly it's water and sanitation. And as far as area within Haiti, it's all about the mapping and getting the communities involved. And so I'm going to kind of walk through that instead of going to Jeremy and Haresh. So we can wrap up, and I think we are wrapped up with our questions. I'd like to thank you both again. Fantastic presentations, are really very touching, moving, and impactful as not only the presentation, but the project themselves. So thank you both so very much. I'd now like to—
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks, Jeremy. Thanks, Haresh. I'd like to now turn over to District Governor-elect Lyle to close us out.
Wow, difficult one to do. What a fantastic evening we've had. In fact, I thought I was hungry about half an hour ago, but I forgot all about the hunger. Barry, I think John might have left, but we started off with a great presentation from John. Then came Harish, and then came Jeremy, and talk about high impact. Those presentations were high impact. And friends, I just want to refer you back to our vision. Together, we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. And what we are hearing here today, that I believe that vision statement was crafted around these projects we've heard about today. There's no doubt about it. We are creating lasting change. And I pinged Barry and I said, you know, from 7030, we don't have a great big DDF, but I'm going to look into committing some DDF to the HANWASH project, Jeremy. So we need to talk. It's not a great deal, but it's going to be something. And I hope that we can encourage our clubs in District 7030 to come on board, because Haiti is a part of us, it's a part of the Caribbean. And let's not forget our brothers in Haiti and sisters. Before I end, I want to remind you that you've been invited or asked to invite the members of your board to attend the session on Thursday. In fact, frankly, I don't see why the members of your board don't attend all the sessions, because we're really into an assembly type setting here. We've done a great deal of stuff on pets, and I would love to see as many of your board members take advantage of the great speakers, the great insights, the inspiration that is being brought to us here. So thank you very much all, and wish you good night. See you on Thursday.
Thank you so much, everybody, for coming, and bring your board members. Believe me, you've been through a lot of great presentations. Thursday is going to be unbelievable. You're going to walk away a changed person. Don't miss it. See you then.